so here we are, and I'm so glad you guys could join me. So we'll focus on doing some more of the point work with this today. Let's start with the neck. So just come onto your back, come down slowly, however's comfortable. And start with your little balls right up behind the back of your head. You might even hold on to it so it doesn't slip down into the crook of the neck, so you're really right under the back of the head there. That's a little intense on my hard one. I'm gonna get a towel. So this is how you make it a little softer if anything that you're trying to roll on is too hard. So now you can just tuck your chin in a little and just let those balls roll under your head. Does that feel good? Then you can bring it down so it's right at the bottom of the neck, and you can lift your hips a tiny bit if you want, and then roll your back down on the floor. And just kind of play around with the rolling around on the back of your neck, and find a spot that feels real comfortable to just hang out in for a minute. And we're just gonna relax and sink in. You can even play with just putting one of the balls under your head, right into that little divot at the back of your head, and roll around on that spot a little bit. Yeah, I think that works even better back there. It's just doing the one right in that little divot where the head meets the neck. Feel your feet flat on the floor, your knees up towards the ceiling. Let your arms come down long. Let your shoulders really fall to the floor. You can give a little groan on the exhale here. And then just take a minute to see what that ball's doing in your neck. Just roll it around a little bit. And then from this position, you can notice if you arch your back a little bit, how it rolls the ball under your neck. Or then slowly roll your pelvis up so your back is flattening into the floor. And you're feeling your tailbone heading up towards the backs of your knees. The stomach just falling into that basin. Just falling deep in there. And that neck and head and shoulders relaxing even more onto that ball. And then you can tilt your chin a little bit, roll your head side to side. You can roll your head a little to the side so you get that one muscle along the side of your spine of the neck coming right onto the top of the ball. And roll over to the other side and just roll side to side there. And you're still keeping just a slight tuck in that pelvis. So you can really feel everything relax around it. And let your knees wobble a little bit. Let your hips rock side to side. Let your chest open even farther. And now relax your pelvis fully too. You can let your knees roll in towards each other. And just keep breathing through that rolling in the back of the neck. Just rolling the head side to side a little. Or the chin up and down. And letting everything else fall away. And then just letting your breath come into your belly. And as your breath comes in, just let your hands expand. And as your breath goes out, your hands come closer together. So you're really getting that breath down in the lower belly. Yeah, really feel your breath coming in that area. And you can roll it around a little bit. And then you can tilt your pelvis down to the ground, stretch your tailbone towards your knees, and roll all the way up off the floor into a nice bridge. And that should bring a little more weight into that ball. Even cup your hands under the ball and hold it. Shoulders are nice and open, and you can really rub your head around on it. You know, all this when you're working at home, just try all different things and see what it feels like. So you can really know I'm really rubbing my head back and forth across that while I've got my hand holding the ball. And then find a nice stationary spot in the center that feels good. Let everything relax. Breathe in, and as you breathe out again, you're going to roll that lower back into the ground until the tailbone comes up towards the knees, one vertebra at a time. Take a nice breath at the top. Really lengthen through everything. Feel those heels grounding into the ground, shoulders releasing into the ground, butt lifting towards the ceiling. And as you breathe out, come one vertebra at a time, trying to leave your tailbone just as high for as long as you can. And really flattening your spine, noticing if it curves a little as it comes down, if one side's hitting the ground first or not. You can wiggle your hips around here before they hit the ground, and then flattening through that lower back and letting it all relax. And roll around on that ball again for a minute. Give your neck a little massage. And now you can do this with or without the ball. We're just going to do a little stretch through the back, get everything opened up. So you're going to bring your knees into your chest and really flatten your rib cage against the ground with your knees into your chest. And then roll to the side. And put your bottom hand on top of your knees so your knees are really stacked over each other, and without letting that top hip roll back. So you're not going to do that. You're going to keep these right over each other. Open the other arm up and look out over that arm. And it might not reach the ground. The goal is to actually keep your body up high enough that you really get a stretch from that arm. And breathing in deep along that spine, and then releasing into it more with the out breath. Twisting, pulling that knee forward, and the head and the arm back. And you can think of each vertebrae as it goes all the way up your back, filling with air as you breathe in, and then each one twisting a little bit past the next as you breathe out. Releasing any tension. Notice if you're tensing in your feet to do this, or clenching your butt, or grinding your teeth, and just breathe into that area. Let it all relax. The only thing working here is your arm and hips moving forward, and the rest is just hanging. And now you can move your arm up towards the ceiling behind you a little bit. See how that gets a different stretch. And you can bring it low towards the wall. Here, you can't see me. I'm doing this. And good. Now bring the arm back, forward, into your nice fetal position, and come over to the other side. I'm going to flip around so I can still see you, but you guys can just roll away from me. And knees up nice and high, so your knees are above your waist, nice and stacked. Looking out over your arm. You might get a nice little crack or two here. And again, feeling that breath coming in along the spine, the knees really being lined up. And as you breathe out, opening and twisting. And everybody just come back onto your side again. And then we're going to roll into the middle on our backs. And you're going to come up a little bit and put your ball on the ground. Try to guesstimate somewhere between the shoulder blades. 2 balls for this one. So yeah, if you want to take a minute to tie them back in your sock. And just find, I like to start at the spot that's kind of right around the bottom of the shoulder blades, near the bra line, holding your head in your hands and having your hands clasped like this so they really stick, so you don't have to put any energy into holding. And you can just put your head in there and then let your arms fall open and relax your head completely. But you can stay tilted a little bit up so that you're not arching and your lower back is down into the ground. So you're getting a little bit of an ab workout here too. So they're right around, right where we get the biggest hump. And put your head behind your hands. So don't come back all the way to the floor in this position, because you want to make sure you're never arching through the lower back. Yeah, and you're really isolating. Are you feeling that? Tilt up a little bit and flatten your lower back into the floor. And then to get even more pressure, you can begin to lift the hips off the ground. Yeah, move around, find the spot that feels good. There's all variations depending on how much pressure you need. Try to keep those ribs down and bring your head off the ground. So you're sitting really rather up. And then you can kind of rock side to side here. And that's if you hold your hands behind your head like this, then your neck won't get as. Put a towel over it if it's too much pressure. Play around with this area, really trying to keep the rib cage engaged down so that as you're stretching and opening through here, you're opening through the ribs. You're not just arching below the ribs. So you're really keeping the bottom of the ribs down and then letting your chest open up around that. So that's why we start up here where we can really feel those abs scooped in and connected, and then keeping that down, open up over the balls. Oh, that feels so good. And then if you can keep those ribs down, come all the way down. It's a little more than I can do. And just roll side to side in that area a little bit. And now you can walk it down between the shoulder blades. Just go slow. You don't have to lift your hips off the ground. Take your time, relax into it. And also lifting the upper body up so you're really kind of coming more to the front of it. You get less pressure on that area and more ab workout. And if you really want more of an ab workout here, again, relaxing your head and neck completely so the weight is just hanging in your hands. Breathe in, and as you breathe out, without the hips wobbling side to side, lift one knee off the ground. Really connecting those lower ribs down and in, and breathe in. And again, not letting the hips wobble at all. Bring that knee back down. And down. If this is fairly easy for you, you can bring both legs up. And then really, so you want to come up so your lower ribs are not popping up at all. Yeah. And then relax your head completely. So your shoulder blades moving down your back are really what's holding your head up. And then move your knees forward till you start to feel the shake, but keeping your lower back into the ground. And then from that, you can do the same one-legged. Yeah. And when you feel like your abs are good and burning, you can come back and just roll a little farther on the ball. Pick your hips up and roll around there. If that's too intense to put that much weight, you can just come up, move the ball a little bit, and then come back down. The other way you can limit how much pressure is on it is to put your elbows down. and just lower back you can take. And now let's get right up in between those shoulder blades for a minute. So you can have your head in your hands for this and pull your elbows really close together and peel the shoulder blades up off the back so you really expose all of that. And then you can really change how much pressure you feel by how much you're leaning your head back and how much you're bringing it up. Remembering always when you lean back to keep those lower ribs nice and engaged so that you're never arching through your rib cage. And you can feel how when you really get those lower ribs engaged and that core nice and solid, the shoulder blades can really just relax. You don't have to hold yourself up with your arms anymore. This part's doing all the work. And that's really the key to good posture, is that this is what's doing all the work, holding everything in the right position. And the shoulders are just hanging out. It's an ideal. But see if you can feel that in this moment of just your shoulders completely letting go, not doing any of the work. Just sinking in around that ball. Sometimes right in the middle behind the shoulder blade there, you can have what I call the mouse knot, especially on your mouse side if you do any computer time. And just lean a little towards this side and you can kind of peel that shoulder blade off and really try to get that ball right along the side of that shoulder blade there. See if you've got any little spots. Kind of rotate towards it if you want. And you can just work your way along that edge of that shoulder blade. You can even let that arm fall open a little bit if you want and kind of work your shoulder around on top of it. So I've got it right behind my shoulder blade there. And I'm just letting it all. And you can use, like Steph is doing, a yoga block or a pillow or whatever else you have around too, so your head's nice and comfy. And get in the other side, right up along that shoulder blade. And really just feel your breath coming in. Remember to breathe and relax and let your whole body turn to jello. And see how deep that ball can sink into that muscle and everything else release around it. Your chest opening, your collarbones spreading wide, your feet melting into the floor, your hips, just letting your whole body sink and relax around that. And you can say thank you to that muscle. Thank you so much for working so hard. And now you can let go. And if you want to, you can stay there for a little while or roll down a little more into the lower part. Just have some free time here to move around, do what feels good in the areas that we've worked so far. And the whole time, just keep imagining that breath, imagining your feet connecting to the earth, touching to the ground. All of us who are in apartments here, so I guess me and Katrin need to be thinking, and Kim, about keeping our feet connected to the ground, even if we're not getting outside a lot. Now we're going to move on to the lower back. So we're just going to bring it. You can either roll into this if you're comfy, if you want a moment. Like I just kind of felt like I needed a minute to come up and just give a little stretch over my feet for a sec. Find a different position for a moment. You can do that. And then let's put the roller right at the top of the curve of the lower back and come back very gently, or you can go from a side lying into this. And holding yourself up with your elbows a little bit if you want, or if you want more pressure, you can come down and start right at the top of the curve of the lower back. So you're not really in the curve yet, and you're flattening that back down into the ground. So you're really opening up that lower back, opening it right up to the ball. And if you do come back all the way, mine's way too big to do that. You just want to make sure that you're not arching too much, that, you know, some of the balls are squishier, bodies are different. And you can come in to the lower back area. Again, really keeping that lower back like you're almost lifting up your hips a little bit so that you're not overarching. Even if your back's on the floor, if your shoulders are on the floor now, you can come down and just rocking side to side. And I'm just putting a little pressure into my feet so that I'm not using any energy in my hips, but I'm just lifting them up off the ground a tiny bit so they can really release in a way that's safe for the lower back. Just rocking side to side. And feeling that breath come into your belly again. Nice and deep into the belly. If there's one side or a spot that feels like you want to hang out on it, go for it. I'm going to do a couple little figure eights here. And then rolling a little farther down your back. And again, using that little tuck in the butt to keep from arching too much, but really letting your weight just come gently into the heels, letting your butt muscles be relaxed. Just using a tiny bit of the hamstrings to pull that pelvis up from the back and let it hang down. And just feeling what pressure feels good. So that way you can release your body onto the ball the amount that feels right. And I'm just going to move forward. I'm rolling away. If any of you are rolling away, you can come back to your spot. And then I'm going to move it down even a little lower so it's right at the top of my hips there on either side of the sacrum. Bring your knees in up to your chest so that then by moving your legs forward or back, you can decide how much pressure you get on that ball. So it's really right at the top of the hip bones. And you can rock side to side here. This can be really intense, so be careful. And then you can take and you can leave both balls together if you want, or you can take one ball out and just put it under your hip and roll to the side. So you've got one of the balls is right at the top of the hip bone, not up in the lower back, but right at the top of the hip bone. And then you're just letting yourself roll over it. You can put both feet on the ground. You can also get into this just by coming into a bridge and sliding it under. And just work that ball all around that SI joint there where the hips meet the pelvis bone, or the sacrum and the pelvis bone come together. Roll even a little more to the side from there, really getting in. And then you can even pull it out, move it a little farther to the side. And you can even, once you're here you can even move that leg side to side and feel how that gets in that area. And then find a spot and really relax. I've got one knee going up and then this knee coming out to the side, really letting those muscles totally relax. And another deep breath. Keep moving the ball around and all the points around your hip bone. And just finding all the spots around that hip joint. And you can leave that leg open. You can find a spot and relax in it for a minute. And let's come onto your side and put it just right. I'm right. It's right here. I guess with this towel, you can't see what I'm doing. But so it's right at the top of the hip on the side. And anytime during this, like if you find a good spot and you want to keep doing it, do your thing. I've actually got my hip kind of in between the two balls, so I can roll forward and get a little more pressure on that one, or I can roll back and get a little more pressure on that one. But you can also just come onto one ball if you want a little. Yeah, so bring it so it's really on the bone right at the top of the leg. But really, so it's on that flat side of the hip bone at the top of the leg. And that's the muscle that tenses your side fascia, the iliotibial band, ITB, as everyone knows, when you're walking, when you're on one leg, to keep the other leg from dropping to the ground. So that muscle does a lot with every step. And really try to relax your body into it so that muscle completely relaxes. And you can even get a little bit of a stretch in your side there. Oh, open up your back a little while you're here if you want. Get that shoulder blade back. Always multitask. A little stretch, a little massage. And you can adjust the position if you want. If you move it a little behind center, so it's sort of like on the corner of your butt, you get into the gluteus medius in there, which is a good little muscle. If you haven't yet, switch to the other hip. You kind of come up to sit, work around to sort of get in that top part of the hip. See if there's any good spots in there. And then you can even come over the hip bone into the top of the side of the leg there. So I'm sort of on an angle of the back of my leg. I'm not sure if I can take it on the side on this ball. Ooh, I can. So now we're going to work our way down to the side. And this is where you can use the larger ball here. Roll back and forth. You get a little bit of a wider pressure. That's a good one. Or you can use the little ball. We'll get in more and get all down the leg, close to the top of the knee. And the other side. And And when you're here too, you can even let your whole body sort of sink in the lower body. So you're getting a stretch through the side of that back. You can put that foot out in front of you and get a little stretch there. If you really roll your hips back, so your foot is off the ground, and you're getting a stretch through that top hip. Tilt your hips back behind you so your top leg comes off the ground, and then just let it hang. Really bring it forward from your body like in an L. And let's just come up to sitting when you're ready. So just feel while you're here, let your hips roll forward and back. So you're really, and let your upper body relax. So you're just moving your hips, and feel how when you roll your hips backwards, how that rounds your shoulders. And when you roll your hips forward, so I'm just arching through that, just moving the hip bones forward and back, and feel how much that changes your upper back. So when you sink your hips back, now trying to sit up is very difficult, right? But if you just go like that, you're suddenly sitting up. And so just think about this when you're at your computer doing all your Zoom work. If you notice yourself slouching, the place to go to is the hips, and just bring the hips into a nice forward position, and then your shoulders will just relax into their proper position. And so while you're here, just roll your head around side to side and let it really hang over your shoulder. Think about your neck getting long, 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 long. And releasing down and up and over to the other side. Long, 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 long. And then you can roll forward a little bit. So you're feeling that stretch through here. Grab the hand of the other side away from that shoulder. Good. And roll forward and over the other side. Switch hands. And yeah, you can move the chin and the head around. Find what feels good. And come to center. Put one hand down and stretch the other one up and over. Come onto your elbow, but not sinking into the shoulder, nice and open. And you can come forward and back a little, really letting your knees fall to the ground. Letting that farther hip really fall to the ground. And come up to come over to the other side. Really opening. Good. And you can roll forward a little, roll back a little. And come to center. Let's do a quick straddle. As wide as is comfortable. And leaning forward as much as is good. And then come over one leg. And over the other leg. A lot of this is all stuff you can do with an iPhone in your hand, watching TV, a lot of the stuff while we're hanging out at home can also be productive body time while you're doing your veg out time. Thanks for joining.